Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Black Box Aviation Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a relatively serious subject. So, you know that pilots deal with layovers and turbulence and other things that just kind of shake up our lives. But in this episode, we're going to explore another aspect of hazards that pilots are exposed to, and that's radiation. Actually, more radiation than a nuclear power plant worker, which is pretty surprising. And while other countries have strict limits on these things and they monitor them, the United States and the FAA, we don't have that protection. So we're going to talk about that quite a bit today and figure out what's going on. Also, we're going to talk about some flight schools, how to pick one that's actually going to help you in the cockpit as well. And we're also going to talk about, just like Ralphie's dad in A Christmas Story, a major award. I'm one of your hosts, Tom. I'm joined by Mike. What's happening, Mike?
What's up, Tom?
It's a major award.
I like the major award comment. My wife will appreciate that too.
Yeah, dude, this came out of nowhere for us, and I mean, I'm really excited about it, and I loved your reaction to it when you were like, "Is this for real?" And
Well, yeah,
it
they
is.
sent the email to us, and I was like, "Okay, what's the catch?" Like,
What's the catch? That's what you
because
said.
I
to
figured
them.
they're like, "Oh, we'll rank your podcast, but you got to send $500 plus shipping and handling." You know, like. And
Those are always the easy ones, right?
but yeah, when they said no catch, I was like, "Sure, let's do it." You know.
Yeah, and because they said, "Oh, well, do you want your badge that goes with it?" And that's where we were like, "Well, how do we get the badge? Because that seems like something that would be you got to pay for it or something like that, something goofy in that regard." But no,
Yeah.
this is what's going on. So we were ranked on the top. Is it 18 or 20? Was it 20? Top 20?
It was top. I think it was top 18.
Top
I'm not sure.
18? Yeah, so we got ranked in the top 18 aviation podcasts, and this company called PodRanker, they they analyze the shows that are out there, and then they put things together. I think they use a little bit of AI and stuff like that to work through it, but there's a human in the loop. And what I think is unique about this is that when you go to the PodRanker website, so go check it out. It's podranker.com flight, and then it's /flights podcasts, and you'll find that ranking. I think they do some other rankings too on there.
They do all kinds of stuff. You could just go to podranker.com and then you could select the category and you just select flights. I went through it all, but they got categories for everything. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and what they said about us, which was pretty cool, it says that they launched in early 2025, just like you guys been listening to us for a year, and it says that we've quickly built momentum with 75 episodes. The host, Tom and Mike, they bring professional airline military backgrounds to every conversation, and I think it's cool because they talk about the format of how we do conversationally and bring in guests.
My favorite part of it was how they acknowledge that it's unscripted, because we really don't script this. Like, we have a couple notes, like we know the topics we want to talk about, and then we just wing it. It's just two dudes talking like we were sitting at a bar or something, and that's, I think, what makes the show so unique and so much better and genuine, and I'm glad they recognize that.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool too. So, and you could see some other podcasts around there. Like, I've listened to some of those other podcasts that are ranked ahead of us. Personally, Mike, I think that ours are better than those shows.
I mean, we're the newest podcast on the ranking. So some of those have been around for 10, 15 years. I mean, so they should be ranked higher. I mean, I'd be worried if they didn't rank higher than us.
Yeah, and what you said too, Mike, and this is weird too, in the world of like internet podcasts and things like that, that once your content is out there, like people continue to consume it. Like, you could have stopped doing your podcast 2 years ago, but the content is still there.
Right.
People consume it because, maybe you find like an old story or something that you like, or the other like Black
Especially
Box.
the accident investigations,
Yeah, that's
change.
a big one. Right. And we looked at that, like we analyzed the show names and things like that before we started. And like, we listened to a couple of the shows that are on that list actually. And I said, dude, I think we can do this, man. And it's cool to be on a list compared to them. And I think, like you said, we're the up and comers, we're the newbies. So all we can do is offer more content and continue to do what we're doing. And hopefully we make more lists as we go in the future. And we thank the audience for that too.
And we'll just continue, and our promise is just continue to be honest and genuine and just shoot from the hip. And this is, I'm not always going to be right, but you'll know how I feel.
I like, Mike, is when we're talking and like you just think of a story, like you hadn't even planned to talk about it.
It's just like, two dudes sitting there talking about work. Like, that's exactly how we would talk about it if we were flying, So I'm very. It was cool to see, and definitely something I shared with with friends and family about the ranking because I didn't even know about it. I didn't even know the ranking. It wasn't like we sought this out or applied or filled out an application. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't know they knew we existed. So that's what even makes it better.
I agree. I agree with that. And like you said, it's fun. And we got the badge. They sent us the digital badge. We
Yeah.
put that up on the YouTube page. So check that
Okay.
out at the Black Box Aviation podcast. If that's on YouTube, and you can see the badge on top. Mike actually AI'd me in a blazer, so I thought that was pretty cool. I look very professional. You still kept your hoodie in the AI, so I don't know why. I'm wearing my Navy hoodie today for all the Navy guys kicking butt out there right now. So I'm
That's cool.
supporting them as well. So. But let's go back, Mike. Let's talk about the serious topic that we have here about radiation. And this came out, the flight attendants pilot union kind of brought this back to the forefront again. And it's been circulating around. This is something that's not new and people know about it. Do you know who the flight attendant, the president of their union is? I can see your face. I don't have it
I
pulled
have no
up.
idea. No clue.
She makes the news quite often, and she's pretty proactive. She's got a good head on her shoulders. So
Oh, okay.
I
I
know
was
she
going to ask if her name was Karen.
Your name is not Karen. I don't know what it is though. I should have known that. But if it is Karen, apologize. But no, she's legit. She's definitely looking out for them. And in the meantime, in this situation, is it backs us up too because, the flight attendants do have different rules. They can be in the aircraft for longer than we can as pilots. But really, with this radiation exposure, has to do with flight crews. Is really in certain segments of the flights that can go longer and things like that, especially over polar routes where people can be exposed to some serious amount
That's what I
of
was saying. You
radiation.
flying out of Anchorage was definitely part of this, I bet.
Yeah, I never did any polar routes, but I think that it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter like if it's day or night too. That's what's
Yeah, it's not like
kind
you
of
just put
weird.
sunscreen on and avoid it. Like it's like
Yeah, so
getting
we're
an
talking about
X-ray.
high energy cosmic radiation. So this is just stuff that's out there and it's drifting through space and it hits the Earth. And for most people that are down on Earth, depending upon Earth you live on, 1, 2, 3, whatever, it doesn't matter. You
Is that the flat Earth or the round Earth?
That's what I'm talking about, Mike. I don't want to talk about it. Where the reptilians are on the moon. I don't know. That's a different show.
All right.
But you have a lot of altitude and atmosphere in between you and outer space to protect you from those rays that are coming through space. Flight crews, we fly. Most of those flights are going to be flown over 35,000 feet, so you lose that atmospheric protection, and you're exponentially exposed to more and more radiation as you get higher in the altitude. Look, it just gets worse too because even though there's this cosmic radiation just out there in the universe, you're also getting hit with things like solar flares. I think everyone's kind of more in tune with like solar flares, solar radiation when they'll talk about solar storms.
You guys have the WSI app, right? Or something similar.
Similar, yeah, we don't have that, which is
So
WSI is an incredible application.
when we put in like our route on WSI, we can actually see space weather and see solar activity and things like that. And it's good to see in terms of like, hey, am I going to lose my HF frequency on this flight, especially over water? Am I going to lose could I lose a GPS or something? Is there some crazy solar activity going on? But you don't even think about tying it to radiation exposure.
No, right.
So I guess I know what trips to call out sick for,
And this will come up a little bit. Well, I'll talk about it. The CDC did a study and they talked about, limiting your exposure and maybe bidding around trips that have more, solar exposure than not solar radiation exposure than others. And that's all well and good, but the reality is like you don't know what you're going to get, right?
There's only so much you can do. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
career we signed up for, it's unfortunate.
it is. And there's other things like you'll say, well, don't fly in the daytime. Well, that's kind of irrelevant. Although there is UV radiation that's also, possibly that you could be exposed to, which is kind of a bummer in its own regard. But I mean, I
Yeah.
wear sunscreen a lot of times in the jet. If it's daytime, I fly a lot at night. But do you wear sunscreen in the jet?
No, not really. I probably should. I
Yeah.
do the sunshade things and stuff like that. And, if if the sun's beating on my face, I can raise my seat to where I put my head in the shadow or whatever, things like that. But no, I don't.
Yeah. And
Because
some of the jets.
some of the sunscreen is not good for you either.
True.
And I feel like if I want to put sunscreen on every day, it kind of makes me just as nervous. I don't know what's worse.
Yeah, and some of the jets, like Mike's saying, like they have like shades that'll pull out from the side. They're like built in. The Airbus is really good at that. It has like these retractable shades that you can pull like forward and they hook into the across the windows. Other jets have like the MD-11 has like this big shade, and you kind of slides on a track and you move it around, which is kind of a game you got to play with where the sun's at. But I mean, oh, the Embraer had a shade too. Oh my gosh, remember the
That
190?
thing was broke all the time. I
Well,
feel like
you
it was
pull the
broken all the
shade,
time.
it came from the bottom. You'd pull it up, and it would hook, and like you'd make a turn, and all of a sudden the thing would let go, and it'd be like a cartoon, when the thing goes gets rolled up, and it would
It was
scare you. You'd
loud.
be like, "Oh my
Yeah, it was
god, what
loud.
did I hit?"
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it would scare
I know
you.
what you're talking about.
So, yeah, some of the jets have that stuff, which is kind of nice.
It
But yeah,
helps.
like you
It's
said,
not
if
a, it doesn't, probably should still wear sunscreen a little bit more often, but yeah.
I was better at that earlier. I seem to kind of trailed off a bit, but yeah. But the like you said, the longer flights at higher latitudes provide the most exposure as far as the cosmic radiation. You see a lot of the flights that go like New York City to Tokyo, Singapore to New York. They're going to go like up and over the polar routes, and that's just going to get New York to London is another one you see a lot. So and they've done studies on this. Like they've brought the dosimeters on board that look at the radiation that's on board the aircraft, and it definitely is a big deal. And then you got other issues with some of the charter jets and private jets that go up 45, 50,000 feet. Right, they're getting even more radiation out
Yeah.
there. But the problem is right now is that there's no radiation monitor. So as far as like pilots go and flight attendants, like no one's saying, "Hey, you got to be limited to this amount of time. If you do a polar route, you can't fly for this reason. You're gonna have to be grounded, and that's gonna cap your flight time for the month." That doesn't exist right now. Like they don't care as far as FAA goes and the airline rules or whatever it is. Like no, you're just going to fly your schedule. If you fly 10 polar routes in March, so be it. Like, that's just the way it is. And, unfortunately, you're starting to see these are causing cancer rates and cancer risks that people are starting to take a look at and formulate into statistics that say, hey, why are the pilots and flight attendants starting to fall into these cancer rates that they weren't before, but we're paying attention to it now. And if you look at like other things, like X-ray technicians, people that work in nuclear power plants, like we're actually getting exposed to more radiation than they are. And if you look at an X-ray technician or someone that works in a nuclear power plant, like they have dosimeters on, like they're getting monitored. There's federal regulations that go along with that. And pilots and flight attendants, we don't have that, which is, kind of scary in that regard. So I'm glad that it kind of plays in. They're talking about longer routes like New York City to Athens could increase cancer risk to the point of 1 in 190 crew members develop cancer. Birth defects are a possible thing. Damaged DNA in female pilots and flight attendants that could cause birth defects later on in pregnancy. And then there's limits for what people should be doing as far as if they are pregnant and flying. And all this stuff is going to cause, be increased anytime there's a radiation spike in solar storms and flare ups like that. So, like you said, using WSI, weather app, space mitigations, like these are all tools that hopefully like we can build a program that comes up. And actually in 1990, the Flight Attendants Union petitioned the FAA. So in 1990, Mike, we're going back like, 30 years,
It's wild.
more than that. Yeah. And they're saying, hey, let's take a look at this. It took 7 years for the FAA to respond to them. And then they said there's no safety concern. So they just denied it. Like,
Put your head back in the
no problem.
sand. Put your head back in
Yeah,
the sand.
nothing to see here. So, even in 2019, the FAA got asked in a congressional hearing to say, "Hey, what are you guys doing to monitor radiation?" And they said, "Well, we're going to start doing that, but actually, our website's down, and it hasn't come back up." That was 2019. So.
Yeah.
But actually in 2023, I saw that CDC article I was talking about. There was an acknowledgement from the CDC about exposure, and that's who was urging the flight crews to bid varying schedules and limit flying during pregnancy. And I mean, that's nice to say, but probably, Mike, I don't see there's a way to solve this problem as far as like not flying, because I don't see they're going to stop flying. Do you agree with that?
I don't have any good ideas. I mean, I really don't. It's just kind of
Yeah.
part of the risk,
So I showed you in this article, was talking about how NASA has developed a light anti-radiation suit.
Yeah.
and you kind of put it on over your uniform. It looks like something you'd put on almost at like the dentist's office, like some kind of a lead suit. And I showed it to Mike. And what did you say, Mike?
I said it looked like a hibachi chef because it was like this black thing. I'll have to pull it up and show it on the screen. But like, yeah, to me, and I was just looking on my phone and an email. Maybe it wasn't really what it looked like, but that was my first thought.
No, I
I was like,
think
I'll
you're
have the
right. I
chicken and
laughed
shrimp,
out loud.
please. More white sauce.
I totally laughed out loud when you said it looks like a hibachi chef. I think because it comes like up over your neck. The hibachi chefs have the tight collar on.
As long as we get the hat,
but
man. I want to catch the shrimp in my hat,
Get your shrimp in your hat.
But even then, if you put that thing on, did they have like a helmet or a mask for you too? I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice a helmet, so whether that would be going into your head or not, I don't know. Or if there's like a cap that you put on.
Probably the worst place for it to go.
Yeah, they get the radiation doesn't go in your body, it goes right into your brain.
You can see how I feel about this radiation suit.
Yeah. So I mean, you could put that on. I've flown with like flak jackets before. They would put like armor plating, these like Kevlar.
Things have changed through the whole, people have changed their opinion about things forever. Like my uncle flew for United for years, and he had to retire a little bit early because of a back problem. But he always said, make sure you buy a suitcase with wheels on it, which everybody has nowadays. But back then, he's like, we called them whisk wheels, and everybody carried their bags. And so you could see how that evolved into like, now people have like bags that roll themselves, like they're so lazy. But like, it's just, so you went from whisk wheels to, okay, now everyone's got this because we don't want to have back problems to, it's just one more evolution of things. So this could be something like that, where it's like, radiation is not a big deal, blah, 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 to a few years from now, maybe we are wearing some sort of protective suit.
Yeah, or maybe they could make some kind of pilot shirts or pilot, uniform or flight attendant uniform that has some kind of woven fabric in there that protects you. I don't know how that would work.
It makes me look like Iron Man walking through the terminal, just like ripped abs and chest, and
They could do that, like the airbrush it on there. Yeah, so radiation.
We're gonna look like the Tin Man walking through is what we're gonna look like.
That's what you would probably
need
look
extra
like.
oil and stuff.
That's my Tin Man robot, I guess.
It's a serious issue. I hate to make so many jokes, but.
Well, I agree, and I don't think that we're making light of it. We're making light of the suit that you'd have to wear, but this is something that you really don't have a lot of control over.
I just don't know what they're going to do. If they limit the flying, then it's going to limit people's paychecks. So you're going to have pushback from certain pilots. Where is the line? Or like, do you do half your schedule to one time of the day and another one the other half? But what if the senior guy's like, well, I just want to fly this time? Like, it's gonna throw a wrench in the entire system to make changes. And I'm not saying they shouldn't. I just don't know what I would recommend.
Well, I thought that they could say like, well, if you did the polar flight that was, I don't know, say it was like a 30-hour round trip or something like that, then they'd say, hey, you're done for the end of the month, but they'd still have to pay you like a guarantee of like 75 hours.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Right. So then they're going to say, well, I got to hire another pilot to do the other 35 hours of that month.
I mean, as much as I would love for that to happen, it's not. Like, I don't see that happening. The airlines have a problem making money as it is. Unless American Express is bailing them out.
Yeah, that's another episode. Staffing and costs. Like, I think this is prohibitive, and that's probably why the FAA is putting this on the back burner to be like, we're not going to regulate them to have to increase costs in that manner, because the last thing everybody wants to hear about is their plane ticket going up because the whiny pilots.
It's the only thing that hasn't gone up, though. I mean, it really is. It's if you look at an inflation chart, if anything, it's down a little bit. So
but that's what makes makes the headlines in the USA Today is airline tickets are going up. They probably sell another 50,000 copies. I
can't even believe the USA Today is still in business. I mean, nobody even reads the paper anymore. So I don't know. They sell fear. They sell fear. So
yeah. So that's a radiation topic, and I mean, I think it's just something that was interesting to talk about.
It definitely is, and it's kind of scary. It makes you think, in 10, 15 years, am I going to have a relationship with Morgan & Morgan? I mean, I just don't know where it's going to go, because
I don't know.
If people are ignoring it because of the financial gain or preventative financial loss, there could be lawsuits down the road because it's something that you knew about. It's not like you can even play denial. So like I said, I think something should be done. I'm not smart enough to come up with a plan, because you can't put the airlines out of business in order to do it.
Have you ever watched the show on HBO, the Chernobyl show, like the docudrama of Chernobyl?
No.
I'm fascinated by Chernobyl and the
Yeah.
radiation.
Yeah.
At one point, like there's this meeting, and like the thing already blew up, and they're in Chernobyl in the building, and they're like, "Well, we don't believe it." And the other guy's like, "No, it happened." He's like, "Go up there, look over the edge, and tell me if it happened." He goes up, he looks over the edge, and like instantly he's like sunburned, like obviously it's a docudrama, and he comes
Yeah.
back down to the meeting, and he's like totally roasted, and they're like, "Well," and he's like, "Yeah, it happened." But they made him go over and look. But surprisingly, HBO did a good job. They're like, yeah, so like they give you stats on like who survived and who got cancer and who died and this and that, and that guy's still alive. So I don't know how he looked over the pit of exposed whatever the uranium fuel rods are, and he gets a sunburn and comes out. So I don't know.
It's scary stuff, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm fascinated by Chernobyl, and now I'm scared by solar radiation and whatever.
You can't lose sleep over it because you can't do anything about it.
Right. Mike, you're going to pop the plugs up, I'm sure, but I'll just hit him real quick. Send us an email at theblackbox01@yahoo.com. Tell us what you think about solar radiation and what we should or shouldn't be doing. Should we be bidding those flights? Maybe we should avoid them. Mike, wear more sunscreen? I don't know. Let us know. We got Instagram and the X. It's the_black_box01. The hotline is 203-699-6792. Send us a text there. Leave your name. Leave us a voicemail. We want to hear what you got to say. You can leave your name, or you can, I'm not going to call you back, so leave a voicemail if you want to. So YouTube, Mike, you're crushing on that. It's at the Black Box Aviation Podcast, and we love the YouTube. So go on there, subscribe, hit the like button, smash the like button. You got Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. You can watch us now on Spotify, so that's pretty cool too. The videos on there,
and on YouTube.
If you go on there, which one?
YouTube
Music.
Yeah,
yeah. You showed me that the app. It pretty much repeats like your YouTube channel, which is pretty
but
cool.
it looks more like Spotify, so you can listen in your car and stuff instead of I can't watch YouTube and drive. Well, you can throw YouTube Music on in it, and it works just like Spotify. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize that too. In Spotify app, you can select audio only or video. Like you can pick or choose, which is kind of cool because it doesn't force you to do one thing or another.
Same thing with YouTube Music, because like how like if you ever want to, I want to listen to this YouTube video, but I got to leave the screen on and I want to go for a jog or something. Like then you're running with the phone in the pocket, hoping the screen stays on. Well, you can just throw YouTube Music on and get the same. You just listen to the audio part. Works great. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah, this guy
until recently.
This guy I know, he's a friend. He told me about Britney Spears' live show in Waikiki Beach, and so he told me he wanted to listen to that, and so he said that
who
he
wants to
could play
listen
the
to
audio.
Britney Spears? Don't most people just want to watch her? I mean, like, isn't she more of an audio or a visual performer?
I don't know. I'm just saying this guy I know. People are saying, I don't know. Everybody knows.
You're asking for a friend, Tom?
This guy, so I heard about it. I don't know. Hey, go to the website, www.theblackboxaviationpodcast.com. There's links on there to everything. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, the works. Check it out. We, Mike, again, you built that up. It's really awesome as well. So that's pretty cool. So thank you for that. And please go use that stuff as a listener. Let's jump into the emails, Mike. This is a doozy of an email, which I'm glad it came in.
Yeah, it creates a whole topic, a whole episode on its own.
It kind of does. Yeah, I think it's let's just hit it quick and bring it up. This is for people that are interested in flight schools, and this topic keeps coming up more and more. I mean, we talked to Ava about how she just started out in her flight training. I mean, she's pretty far along, but the difference between the Part 61, Part 141, going to college and things like that. So this comes up. So someone's saying, should I choose a flight school based on what airplanes they have available for training? And this is more for like a Part 141 program, which is a very structured, syllabus based, time driven thing, which some people like because they're on a time constraint and they're like, I need to get my rating done at this time. I need to have this done. And it costs as well too. You can see the cost structure and how it plays out. Mike, you did college training and then you did some 141 training as well, right?
Yeah, I did Part 61 when I was in high school. So I've done both,
Yeah, that's great that you have all. Yeah, you have a perspective on all that stuff.
But choosing a school based on the airplane, I mean, unless you're worried about safety, I wouldn't really worry too much about the airplane. I'd worry about the program. Where do the graduates go? What are their job placement rates? Do they get interviews with airlines? Do they guarantee you a job to instruct to build time? Those are the things I'd be looking for. Location, is it where I want to live for 2 years? Because you may be there for a year training and a year teaching. Um, that's what I would look at. I wouldn't, who cares about the equipment? Because it's going to be such a blip on your radar. But if it's like old, burned out equipment and you're worried about safety, that's different. But obviously, if you go to the nicer airplanes, the school's probably going to cost more. So you just got to balance that out. But I would look at the historical, where these schools are placing their graduates, would be, and the time taken too. Are these people finishing in 10 months? Or are they finishing in 24 months? Like that plays a big role in it as well. So there's a lot that goes into it. That's why I say it could be its own episode. But I wouldn't care about the airplane type. I really wouldn't. You're probably looking at a Cessna or a Piper. I've done both. They're both great training aircrafts.
So I pulled up a couple flight schools in Florida. This is Blue Line Aviation. Again, we have no affiliations with these schools. I just pulled these off of Flying Magazine's list of top schools in Florida. This school's in Winter Haven, Florida. It's a structured 141 program, and they have their single engine trainings in a Piper Archer, and then they have a DA-20, which is a single engine, and then they have a multi-engine Piper Seminole. So those are pretty traditional, wouldn't you say, Mike, as far as you'd see in a flight school?
I mean, nowadays, yeah. I mean, I trained in Cessna 152s and 172s, but my flight school has gone to Cirrus. Other than
Cirrus,
they've kept some Cessnas for spin training and things like that. But, and I just can't imagine. I feel like, call me old, stay off my lawn. I just feel like some of the old school planes, you learn better in terms of like your scan and your instrument skills and things like that. I know that the airlines are glass cockpits. I know that learning on that is going to help and but your scan in general is better on an old school 6-pack. And I feel like at least for your private and instrument, that'd be the way to go. But that's just the old crusty captain talking. But I know how invaluable that training was for me when I got furloughed from my glass cockpit at Comair and went to a no autopilot 6-pack Beech 1900 at Great Lakes. I would not have passed Great Lakes training had I not had the flight school experience I had. Because we had people fail out. Corporate pilots, major airline pilots that failed out of training because they couldn't fly the plane. Because you really, just like we talked about, flying is a skill, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you don't ever learn it, then, I don't know. Like I said, that's old crusty me captain talking, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, if you never learn that skill of the basics, like OBS knob, like Jay was on the show last week talking about, Jovan was talking about the NDB holding, like you don't have that skill. Like it's not in your bag, so you can't.
And that
if
skill
you never had a
helps you with
skyhook,
the,
you
and
can't shoot.
and it's not like, oh, well, they don't use that anymore, so I don't need to know it. No, that skill helps the other ones get even better. Because we still have to scan our airspeed and altitude and VSI and everything on a glass cockpit. When you're doing maneuvers and things like that, hand flying, visual approaches at night. What if your autopilot's deferred? What if the airline's not going to cancel the flight because something's deferred? So I see it in the training department with some guys that have come up, some younger guys, and I flat out don't think they're as good of pilots as the ones that have learned on old school equipment. That's my opinion. I trust them. I would put my family on them. They're safe. Don't get me wrong. They're safe. It's just in terms of stick and rudder skills and, stuff. They're just not as good.
Yeah, when I flew C5, we would hand fly that airplane for like 2 hours in the pattern, and my skills were just increasing exponentially because most of the other time I was flying autopilot all the time. But I was going into Cleveland one day, and the guy's like, he asked me to slow down, and I slowed down way down. This is a captain on 190, and I was probably like 3-4 miles out, and he's like, what do you got for spacing? And I was like, I'm going as slow as I can go. And he's like, you got to give me some kind of spacing. I don't even know what was in front of me, but I said, I'll make some S turns here. He's like, do it. And I'm making these big old S turns, at 2-3 miles. And like, I'm really like, working the airplane, but I didn't think twice about it because I knew that I could do it.
But
I had that skill.
You have this scan. Yeah. Anybody can do S turns, right? But you got to do S turns and stay on the glide path.
Yeah.
I see guys, they'll bang out the S turns, and all of a sudden now they're super low, or they stop descending. They keep their route, and now you're super high. Like, you got to stay on the glide path during your S turns. So you have to keep a scan on your glide slope and your VSI and your airspeed. You're not just out there yanking and banking. But you don't want to just stare at your glide path and all of a sudden now you roll into a 50-degree bank or some nonsense either. So you have to look at the whole picture. And yeah, I know glass is easy. It's in one spot, yada, yada, but your eyes still have to move. You have to look at multiple things. And I just call me the old guy. I don't care. I think the old six pack, I would say once you get through private instrument, go to knock yourself out with the glass when you go into your commercial rating. That's fine because you'll at least have some skill there. What if you're on your commercial solo and all of a sudden, you have to do this 250-mile cross country, weather socks in or whatever, and your screen goes black. What are you going to do? I mean, you just don't know. I don't know.
It's like the guy you said where the FAA guy took the guy up because he couldn't do anything without his iPad.
So he failed him on his check ride. It's crazy. Yeah. So I mean, you gotta be able to do at least the basic stuff, and yes, you can do it on the glass, and yes, the airlines are glass, but what if your first job is a King Air? Like, you don't know what your first job's going to be. You can't guarantee me what you're going to do. This is the most unpredictable career in the world. And I mean, if you told me that I'd be doing what I'm doing, I mean, yeah, I knew my plan was always to go to an airline, but like, I wanted to fly 747s for United like my uncle. I mean, it's not even a possibility anymore. So, I mean, the airline the industry is forever changing. I mean, we're at war with Iran right now. Who knows what's going to be like in another couple of years? So you just don't know what that job's going to be. You can't guarantee me that you're going to fly a brand new Embraer at 24 years old right out of flight school with glass cockpit. Maybe you do. But either way, regardless, your training is going to be better on the six pack. Your skills are going to be better on the six pack. When you have to go hand fly that Embraer, you're going to be way more confident knowing that your scan is better than the average Joe.
Check this out. This is Florida Flyers International Flight School. This is also in Florida. They have Cessna 172, and they've got a Piper Seneca Twin, and then they have a Cessna 310. But they actually advertise that they actually have Sirius XM satellite weather in their 172s as well. I remember flying in Navy flight training in the T-34, which there was no glass in that. There was nothing. Like everything was analog.
I remember we used to be able to listen. We used to listen to Disney radio on the NDB. You could tune in I think it was like 990 or whatever, 980 or something, and you could listen to like NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys or something on Disney radio.
Here's some Weird Al. Drop some Weird Al in there. The Chipmunks would sing a song.
Because the NDB operates the same way as like AM radio. So if there was an AM radio station, you could tune and you could kind of hear it. So that's how we listen to sports games and stuff too.
So I'm flying around one day in a T-34. Now we're in the Florida Panhandle, so the afternoon storms would build up. Mike, this from living in Florida.
Sure.
And then my IP, my on-wing, he was a real hard ass. Like, he's awful, man. And I would hear stories like people going to lunch with their IPs, their on-wing pilots, and like my on-wing, he would take my lunch money. Like, he was a tough guy, and he was a real bastard. But
your head in the toilet.
And here's the other thing, Mike, like. Yeah, and like I was not good at flying, like, and this made it more.
That makes so much more sense now. Now everything makes sense, Tom.
Yeah, I wasn't good, and that really made him angry. So, anyways, we'd fly like so close to these buildups, and I'd be like, "Sir, and lightning bolts would be like coming out of the buildups, and he'd be like, "What's your problem?" And I'm like, "The lightning is gonna hit us." Like, ugh. So and he'd scream at me that I was a ninny, but I would have appreciated maybe scrolling the Sirius XM weather picture back then.
When I was at Great Lakes, we did all our training in the actual airplane, which was a little different for most airlines. But there was one of the instructors, more of a senior guy. Why he never left, I don't know. Probably multiple DUIs or something. But he was a real prick. But he wouldn't fly through clouds, so everyone called him Captain VFR. Like, he would like delay your training or cancel if it was cloud. Like, it was like Captain VFR.
VFR. I like it. Yeah, so like I guess we went through a different world of, we're talking crusty stuff now, but I mean, yeah, so picking a flight school based on your airplane, there you go. That's our 2 cents on it.
I think the best way is to look at what the graduates are doing. How long did it take them to get through the program, and what are they doing now?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and again, we don't have any affiliations with those schools that we mentioned, so I was just pointing out.
Any school you pick, they're going to give you a price, but that price is going to change based on how long it takes you. That's going to be like, hey, this is the bare minimum. You passed every lesson the first time. You never had to do an extra lesson. You never had a weather delay. You never had to, any maintenance, like, so that price is going to change. So you want to see a school that can get you through quickly because it's going to keep the price down. So if you see school A is $20,000 less than school B, but school B gets people done 6 months earlier, go with school B because school A will end up costing more, guaranteed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Someone else wrote in the email asking about seeing pilots with uniforms going to sit in the cabin while other pilots, this must be an airline flight, while other pilots in uniform go back and sit in the cockpit. I think this is probably just a question about like jump seating, like who has a priority.
It's
Maybe,
either jump seating or
sometimes
deadheading. I mean,
yeah, my company has they'll buy us tickets on planes. So sometimes you have a ticket that's purchased and you're going to go sit in the cabin. There's other hierarchies to the jump seating priorities. So that's probably what you're seeing going on.
and then you always get the dad. You always get some dingleberry giving you the dad joke of, "Aren't you in the wrong seat?" I'm like every time without fail.
Yeah, until you go back and sit next to, you're in the wrong seat. Well, that's a good one.
What's your route?
Let's see. Avery wrote in. She says that she learned a lot about hypoxia on our show about Payne Stewart's accident.
Good.
She didn't know that's what it's like. What happens when you start to lose oxygen in your blood? And so, if you haven't listened to the Payne Stewart episode, go back. That was last Friday. We talked about what happened in that accident with the rapid decompression. I tell a good story in there too about having a rapid decompression.
Yeah, I didn't know that about you. That's crazy. Like that's still crazy to me. So I'm just glad you weren't at a higher altitude.
Yeah, we were lucky. So go back and listen to that show. It's not that long, and it's just a quick wrap up for that. Yeah, let's see. Somebody wrote in and was asking about some technical stuff about video cards and gaming with their flight simulators. So that was the episode with Jovan that was on last week. That dropped last Wednesday. So go back and listen to that. We talk about flight simulators and the world of gaming. So we're gonna have to send that to Jay because
I'm clearly not the one to ask. I told Jay, you probably just get a basic computer if that's the only thing you're running. He looked at me like I was cross.
Yeah, there's definitely.
I don't know. I'm not a techie. I'm not a techie.
Yeah. So, all right, Mike. Well, I think this was just kind of a wrap up. I want to hit that radiation thing as far as it goes. I want to give a shout out to my buddy Ed. He's one of my Y buddies. He's battling a pretty nasty illness, so a shout out to him. I hope he's listening, and we wish him continued strength and progress in his journey. So we appreciate that, Ed. Mike, I appreciate this episode. We'll wrap it up from here. And you got anything else you want to drop in?
No, man, I'm good.
All right, great, man. Great episode. I'll see you next time.
See you, Tom.
You've been listening to the Black Box Aviation Podcast. Real pilots, real stories, and aviation news the way it's actually talked about in the cockpit. If you like what you heard, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, keep the blue side up, and we'll see you at altitude.